We continue today our conversation with Laura Clark, the Wild Wanderer. Fittingly, we are releasing this episode 2 days after Mother's Day. We hope that all you mothers that listen to this find inspiration from Laura's story. Thank you and enjoy. If I start to see you getting close, I'm going to send you a bottle of whiskey in the mail and you can celebrate with that.
Okay. Yeah, I would appreciate it. Yeah. Okay.
Welcome to the Greens and Blues SportsCenter podcast. This episode, Zach buys a bunch of fireworks. I use 70 different coffee mugs at one time. And we continue our conversation with Laura Clark, the Wild Wanderer.
So, speaking of online criticism, there was a bit of a fiasco on 14ers.com with your ascent of Thunder Pyramid. And I was wondering if you could give us a synopsis, and you don't have to be objective or impartial. You can tell us, you can illustrate it as you see fit, but like, what was going on there?
Well, that actually blew up. I did not expect that to happen at all. Still very early in my mountaineering career. I'd only been hiking peaks for about a year and a half, and said this before, didn't know what I didn't know. Saw reports said this is when you should go. I did. Went up, went down, made a trip report about it.
And you always take summit selfies, right?
Mm-hmm. I always do. So it was cold. It was really cold. And I was racing time because when the mountain gets warm, you get avalanches and you get things that just are just not safe. And at this point, I didn't even know what a GPX file was. So this was, I think, my 78th peak, and I had no clue what a GPX file was. So I was completely still going off of Topo Maps. And I'm trying to get to the top, and I'm hitting obstacle after obstacle. And it's hard. And I'm getting cold because I'm in a lot of snow. I hit the saddle, and when I get to the saddle, I just sink like up to my armpits in snow, and I'm cold. And I have Raynaud's, and I'm looking and I'm like, okay, there's probably 200 to 300 feet to the summit. I think I can do that. If I drop all my gear, I think I can do that. But I'm not going to have a lot of dexterity in my hands. So let's see what I can do. And I was rock climbing and I was going around stuff, and I was shaking. I was scared. I was a little scared. I still felt
Thunder
that
Pyramid is a scary peak, right? It's not just climbing, it's climbing on really, really poor rock.
Yeah, there's snow that I'm falling into, and I'm getting cold, and I have no use of my fingers. So I had a cell phone in my pocket, but I also had my Canon camera, my DSLR, on my front. And I get to the top, and I have no dexterity in my fingers. And on top of that, when you have Raynaud's, your fingers don't work on touchpads. So like if you go to a bank and use a touchpad, or you're trying to use your phone, your fingers don't register. There's no
heat.
There's no heat. It doesn't register at all. So I'm up there, I look around, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take a selfie with my camera. And I stick it in front of me, and I take a selfie, and then I just head back down. I didn't even think about it. Long story short, I make it back down. There's a lot of cool stuff in that, but you can read that in the book. Like, it was a cool descent. It was cool coming down. I made it. Come back home, put a trip report together. I'm all excited because I think I've got all this information that nobody's ever heard of before. And then I get a lot of flack from people. Just
what was the flack?
A lot of flack.
Yeah, what was happening there?
A lot of people said I didn't summit.
That's right.
And that actually made me question myself for a while. Like, did I not? Like I'm pretty sure I did. But if you do Pyramid and Thunder Pyramid and Lightning Pyramid, there are a lot of other high points there that can be construed as not being the summit. So I did mentally think to myself, did I not? I had some people say, well, where's the summit register? And I'm like, there was snow. If there was a summit register, I didn't see it. I didn't even know there was one. I don't know if there is, but no clue, didn't see a summit sign or anything. I'm just like, I'm at the highest point. I got up, I was making it back down, mainly because I didn't want to get frostbite or hypothermia. I knew that was a possibility of things happening. But then it really did just snowball. And it snowballed not in a good way. People were attacking my character. They were saying that I was a liar. They were just, all sorts of negative things. And I'm like, what the heck are you guys talking about? Like, what is this? And it was very mentally challenging for me because I'm seeing people writing things about me that I know aren't true. and they're asking me questions and
And they're
everything
asking you to
somebody
provide like GPX files.
and I didn't know
Yeah,
what that was.
yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to pull stuff up and I'll show you pictures. And what else can I give you? No matter what I gave them, I mean, I had tons of pictures. I had tons of other things. Like it was never enough. It was no matter what I gave them, it was never enough. And then people were reading a comment, but not reading all of them. And there's hundreds of comments on this thing. And they just jump to a conclusion without reading everything. Or I'd answer a question and they pretend like I didn't answer it. And then they would just say, oh, you're still lying. Well, unless you were there with me, what do you want me to do? I've got all this stuff. I'm giving you everything I have. But eventually I just shut down. I'm like, I'd have to stop reading these comments because it doesn't matter what I tell these people. They're not going to believe me. They're just on some sort of a role or an agenda. And I don't know why, but okay, you guys be you. I'd much rather be known for helping people summit and giving them a way to summit safely than tearing somebody down or making somebody look bad. Like I was seeing myself devolve into being mean back. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be that kind of a person. I'm just going to leave it alone because that's not what I want to be known for. I'll let
got
you know,
into this
be
to
known for
be
that.
fulfilled and to be away from people, not to be
Right.
harassed online by a bunch of.
Yeah.
And it was at that point when I realized, I use this term loosely for me, that I was an influencer. Like I didn't think anybody cared about what I did. I was doing it for me. I was completely doing it for me. And I started getting all this negative stuff. And I'm like, well, the only reason they're doing this is apparently because I'm doing something cool. Like they're watching me. I didn't know anybody was watching what I was doing. It was completely for my own reference. I did this and put it up here and then started helping people. So I started doing that, but didn't realize that I was making any kind of an impact on anybody else until that point. And then I'm like, oh, now I've got to be careful. Now people are looking at what I'm doing and I had no clue people were looking at it. And I'm like, no, now I think my job is to do it the safest way, not just summit. I want to make sure if people are looking at what I'm doing, I'm going to try to do it the safest way. And maybe that takes 2 or 3 attempts to do it. But wow, okay, I'm having an influence on people.
I've never personally seen anyone else's. There's plenty of people that do trip reports on 14ers.com that have stats in your range, all the 14ers. At that time, it was probably, you had 30 some odd 13ers on your list. I've never seen anyone else jump on there and be like, I don't think you're doing this. Like plenty of people just post summit photos with no people on them at all. Like, here's the view from the top of, La Garita Mountain. And there's like, it could be anybody's summit photo, right? You take such great pains to make sure you're in the frame, that you have a background that's recognizably that of like Thunder Pyramid, right? Like it couldn't have been taken it. These guys are on there talking about it like the parallax. You could have doctored the photo and this kind of like, the second gunman on the grassy knoll. Where do you think that's coming from, Laura? Like speculate for a minute.
I don't know. I really don't know. I think I'm being held to a different standard. I'm not really sure why. I wasn't trying to prove or say anything. Now I'm much better at it. Now I know that that's what people expect. So I am doing more to make sure that happens. But I can tell you there's a handful of trip reports where you don't see me in the photo, and especially the early ones, because I didn't have dexterity in my fingers. I couldn't do it. I have recently learned that if I have a stylus with me, I can turn stuff around and I can, I can make a picture without using my fingers. And I've kind of evolved with that. I don't know why I get so much flack. And honestly, I have to say that it feels like bullying and harassment behavior, and I don't know why. And I don't want to explain that away. I don't want to explain online trolling or bullying or harassment because it's not fair to the victim to say, oh, well, they do this because. Like that to me is not an okay mentality. It's not. So on their own, they can answer that question, why they feel the need to be mean. And they might have a really good, valid reason for it. That's great. I'm a real person and it hurts. And why can't you just talk to me about it? Like, why can't you just talk to me about it?
Yeah.
But I can also say some of the people that have said really negative comments, I have met on trails while hiking. Didn't know it was them.
Really?
Didn't know it was them. I met them on trails and I'm like, with groups, like, they're in a group and I'm in a group, try to talk to them. Oh, okay, cool. This is what's up ahead. How are you guys doing? They'd be shuffling their feet, looking down at their feet, wouldn't meet me in the eye. And didn't realize until, we get back home and I get tagged in a post and the person that I'm tagged with is this person that was really mean to me online. Like they won't say it to my face, what they're upset about. And they're obviously ashamed for saying it.
As they
but
should
it doesn't
be.
keep them. It doesn't keep them from saying it again. They knew who I was. I didn't know who they were. trying to be nice to them, like, why won't this person talk to me? And then you find out later, oh, well, they're the ones that were really, really loud and adamant about saying I didn't do stuff. But then later, they'll say the same stuff again. They'll bring it right up again, won't look me in the eye when I meet them, but they'll say it over and over again. So they get to deal with that on their own and their own conscience. That's
Well,
it.
And here you are maintaining your integrity the whole time and not accidentally tripping them or anything like that.
Well, to be fair, when I met them, I didn't know who they were, but they knew who I
Yeah.
was. I had never seen a picture of them. I didn't know who they were. Trying to
Up on
be
the
nice.
ridge, you're going to want to go left, right?
No. I'd much rather be known for getting people down safely. That's the whole point. Doesn't matter who they are. I want you to make it down safely.
Oh, there you go.
I just have to say, for me, like when I saw that, I just thought, wow, people are jealous. And there's an obvious element of misogyny in there too, but people are envious of the rate at which you have gained skills that took them 10 times longer to acquire.
Or maybe they haven't even gotten to yet.
And the way you've been able to aggressively hike a lot of peaks in a very short period of time, I think brings out some envy in people. And that can look ugly.
Yeah, I'm at a good point in my life to do it though. Like, especially now, all my kids are in college. They're not living at home. I can do things on my own. I have that, and it's my passion. It's my hobby. I love doing it, and there's nobody to say I can't. So I know some people have other commitments where they can't, and I can, and it makes me so happy. So I'm going to take advantage of it before my body gives out and I can't anymore. Like, I'm in a good position.
I'm glad we got to cover that, because that was something that obviously, as I was reading your book, that came up, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous.
Spent many nights, many hikes contemplating it. So
I can only imagine.
To use a phrase that my Gen Z students use, to be gaslighted like that and be told that you didn't do something that you did do. Like, hiking is a weird community of people. On the one hand, we're all libertarian in the sense of like everybody following their own path, everybody does their own thing. And in the other, there's a small minority that wants to police the accomplishments of others. And
I think that comes from the fact that there isn't really a governing body. There really isn't for mountaineering. So you say what you say, and it's up to everybody else to kind of prove that you did what you did or not. And I, like I said, I didn't know when I came in. Like, had I known that I was being followed or that I had to do all this stuff, I would have done it, but that wasn't why I was doing it. I was doing it for fun. Like, I wasn't doing it to prove anything. I was doing it because I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And does it really matter to me in the end? No. Like,
you know who you
like,
are.
I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. So that's all that really matters. So I know I did it. That's all that matters.
By the way, I have that same mug, Laura.
Yeah. I collect them. So I have like 70 of them.
The Starbucks ones?
Yeah, so this one's Colorado, but I've been to like all 50 states, and my son's stationed all over the place. So every time I visit him, I get a different country, and I've got them all displayed. Like, I only need one at a time, right? But yeah, I have a bunch. Yeah, that's my vice. Yeah,
there are much worse vices to have, right?
Oh gosh, yeah. And coffee is mine too, so I'm with you there.
How do you train? You're in fantastic condition to do what you do. How do you train?
Well, I have to say, hiking itself is training itself. So like when I do 5 peaks a week or something like that, that's it. I train 365 days a year. If I'm not out mountaineering, I am on the treadmill. And I put my treadmill to 15%, which is the highest incline it'll go. And I put it at 5 miles an hour, and I do that for an hour while I watch whatever shows I need to catch up on.
So you jog at the 5 for an hour.
Yeah, and I don't allow myself to watch TV unless I'm on the treadmill. That's just kind of my personal thing. So if I want to watch TV, I got to be on that treadmill. And I do that every day I'm not in the mountains. Okay. I don't get off days.
Now you got me feeling it, because I will put the treadmill at the 5-degree incline, and I'll run at 5 miles per hour, and I'll do it for 30 minutes or 25 minutes. And I'm like, woo, I really did it today.
All you got to do is get your heart rate up there for a good 20 minutes. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
You're kicking butt. That's awesome. If I start to see you getting close, I'm going to send you a bottle of whiskey in the mail, and you can celebrate with that.
Okay. Yeah, I would appreciate it. Yeah. Okay.
So talk with us for a minute. Your book is about hiking the bicentennials. So in order to do that, you've obviously hiked the centennials.
Yes.
And so those are, for those that don't know, those are all the 106 peaks above 13,800 feet in Colorado, right?
Well,
Um,
it's the top 100, but
top
there's a lot of different lists. So it
Yeah.
depends on which list you're looking at. Yeah.
So what was your centennial moment, and what was that like to have accomplished that pretty early on in your mountaineering life?
Hmm.
You know what, honestly, to me, it was kind of cool, but it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't like a milestone to me. I did it and then got in my car and went to another peak. Like that was it. I mean, it was exciting to get it done, but it wasn't like I still have more. At that point, I knew I wanted to finish all of the 13ers. So I'm like, okay, I've got 100 down. I've got, 500 and so many more to go. It was just a
Mhm.
number
Yep.
because I already made the commitment to do more. So it wasn't a huge deal for me when I did it. It was just, okay, what's the weather? How do I get to the next trailhead so that I can finish working on other 13ers that I want to do in the area? I know that's kind of a letdown answer, but I honestly, it
Yep.
wasn't a big deal to me. Like it wasn't a celebratory thing. It was just, okay, cool. I got down before, like, I think that one was Vestal for me, and I did it in a day. And then I was just like, okay, so it's 5 hours to the next trailhead because I really want to do this one next. Can I get down before the storm comes in? And driving all night through the rain,
Hmm.
but it wasn't like a big woohoo. I made it. It was just, okay, cool. That one's done. Next.
Was
But in a
was
good
it
way. That's not a negative thing at all. It was a good way. It's like, yep,
yeah.
got that one done. Okay, where am I going next?
Hmm.
Was it a similar feeling when you accomplished the bicentennials?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's a bigger list for me. I mean, it was a big deal, especially because I had attempted so many times. Like over and over again, some of these harder peaks. It wasn't like a first time done. I had to
Yeah.
go over and over again. I know with Peak 15, I went 3 weekends in a row, and that's a good 50-mile trek in and out, if not
Yes.
more than that, to do it. I mean, it's a big commitment, thousands and thousands of feet of elevation gain and just a lot. The number wasn't really the big deal. Sometimes it's just the peaks, like the hard peaks, like, okay, I've attempted this 3 times. I finally got it. Awesome. What's the next challenge? Like, okay, what am I working on next? How am I going to get this one done? I know that's
Well,
kind of a letdown answer. Like a lot of people are like, yes, I did it. But I've never really felt that way. It's always been like, okay, what's next?
of those peaks, what was the peak that was kind of like was it peak 15? Was it Jagged? Was it Dallas? What peak was it like, wow, I did that?
Well, okay, so with Peak 15, I attempted it 3 times and finally realized this is something you need two people for. Somebody's got to belay you from below. There's just not enough anchor points. I need to do this with somebody else. That was a big deal for me. So I did not summit that one by myself. I had somebody with me on that one. As far as like which one is the one that like I've really felt accomplished from,
Mm-hmm.
Jagged definitely. Jagged was. I did that one all by myself. And then Coxcomb was a huge
Yeah.
one for me. That one took several attempts, and when I finally got it, that was a big deal. That was just, yes, I got this one. And I felt so good because all the skills I had built up, like, going to the climbing gym and going out with friends and learning how to set up anchors and learning how to rappel and learning how to do it all solo, it all culminated into this one. Like, I did it. I did this, and I did this on my own, and I am proud of myself. There are things I haven't been able to do on my own. Obviously, Peak 15, I needed somebody. I also don't think that was safe to do on my own. I looked at it and
Mhm.
looked at it and looked at it and went, no, I want to be a grandma someday. Like if I did, it's not worth falling 1,500, 2,000 feet to my death just because I want to hit this peak. That wasn't okay. I do want to hit the peak, but there's got to be a safer way to do this. If I can't do it solo, need to get a friend. I'd rather do it solo, but if it's not going to happen, that's not a big deal. It's okay.
Did I get the right impression when, because I think Peak 15 might have been the last chapter of your book. I got the impression that that was the only bicentennial that you didn't summit solo. Is that right? So all of the other 199-ish, you did summit solo?
Yeah, absolutely. I did every other one solo. That's the only one I didn't. I did attempt it, but I realized that I didn't feel safe enough. I mean, I attempted it several times and went,
Mhm.
no, this is
Yeah.
something that two people need to do.
Yeah.
But I still wanted it. So
hmm Just mind blowing just to think of, wow, all of those peaks by yourself, you were able to, and to your earlier points, I mean, that's what you wanted. I mean, there's serenity there, there's the ability to think and kind of find yourself in a way, but the accomplishment too, even if there aren't fireworks and cupcakes, like just the accomplishment of it is, I don't even have words for it. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do hike to be by myself to find peace. I find peace doing it. But there's that list thing too, where, okay, if I realize I can't do this on my own, but I really want to get them all done, how to be humble and say, okay,
Mhm.
I need some help with this. This is something I need help with. How do we make this happen?
Yep.
Well, Laura, we've also, in addition to our kind of longer form questions here, Eric and I have prepared some short answer rapid fire questions for you.
Oh
Hopefully
boy.
these,
No pressure.
no pressure at all. You got to get these right. So answer these however you see fit, but these are some questions that we both thought of when we were thinking of you and reading your book. So we'll start off. What's your favorite mountain that's not a 14er?
Okay, my favorite mountain is the one I'm going to do next. That's
Love it.
always my
That's
answer,
a
whichever one
great
I'm doing
answer.
next.
That's a great answer.
Perfect. You're getting a gold star so far.
Okay.
Your least favorite mountaineering experience?
I don't know that I have one. Honestly, I've never had a bad experience. I always come back learning something. Even if I don't summit, I've always learned something, and that's great because I apply it to all these other mountains. How rapid fire do you want this?
That's plenty rapid. No, that
Yeah.
Okay,
your first
because
two
I mean I've
answers,
got a story, but it's not the same. So
those two
Yeah.
answers are gold. That's
Okay.
why you are who you are. Okay, I have to ask a question. How many ghosts have you seen while you're hiking? There's a
I would
story in
say
your book where you saw someone in a house.
Yeah, in the
yes,
house. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Freaked
That's
me
my
out,
only
man.
ghost story, and I want
Okay.
to say it was the same one. I just saw her twice. So does that count as one or two?
Was that in Marble? Is that where that was? Or where was
Yeah, Crystal. Yeah,
Crystal?
yeah, by
Crystal,
Crystal
okay.
Mill out there by Marble. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that was intense. It was intense when I got back and realized there was no house there. So,
Yeah.
but it was a ghost.
Okay, follow-up question to that. How many times do you think you've actually been hallucinating while you've been hiking?
Twice. I can say that definitive twice. Once on Snowmass and once coming back from Pigeon and Turret. Those are the two times I've hallucinated.
Like heard random songs in the distance
Yeah.
and sounds and stuff during one of those hallucination experiences in the book I think you wrote, right?
Yeah, that was Snowmass. Yeah, I was lucid enough to know that's what it was. I hear it a lot. I think other people do too. Just sometimes rivers and creeks and water sources
Mhm.
just sound like music,
Yeah.
and you got to be in the right state of mind to know that that's not.
Yeah.
It's just the river bouncing stuff off.
You posted with pride at one point your camper setup in your truck. What's your favorite accessory for your camping setup? You have a Toyota Tundra or Tacoma, I believe. So what's your favorite accessory for that?
Yeah, I have a Tacoma right now, and I really love my buddy heater because I'll be out there and it's 12 degrees, and I can turn that thing on, and in less than 5 minutes, I am toasty warm and have to turn it off because it is so hot.
Mm.
That is my go-to. I get cold, I have Renaud's, I get cold really quickly, and that is my best friend.
Love it. Just a few more rapid fire questions. You're winning. We do a thing where we talk about peaks and songs. If hiking was a song to you, or if we can make this broad, or if your hiking career was to be a song, what song would it be?
Probably Kelly Clarkson, What Doesn't Kill Me Makes Me Stronger.
Mm.
That
Yep.
would be it.
I'm digging this. Okay, last two. How much time does it take you to do your trip reports after you hike?
Totally depends on the trip report. I can usually get one done in 2 to 2.5 hours. But if it's like a weekend trip report, that's going to take me 5 hours or so. But most are about, 2.5 to 3 hours.
With all of the detail, all the pictures, the videos. Wow. That's you must have a
I have a
system down.
process rubric. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know what I'm
Okay.
taking pictures of. Yeah. I take pictures all the time on the way down, not the way up, because I hike in the dark. So
Mhm.
on the way down, I've already known what I've done. So I can give you the correct pictures, not
Mhm.
wrong ones. You know.
That's a good technique. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, last question. This is probably the most important question you're going to answer all day.
Oh boy.
You somewhat infamously take a shot of whiskey before you go to bed at night before hiking. What's your favorite whiskey?
Okay, I have two. I like Tin Cup. Tin Cup is my favorite whiskey, and I heard they just come out with a new 14er variety, so I haven't tried that yet, but
Really?
Maybe there's a
I like that.
sponsorship in the works there
There
for
you
you,
go.
Laura.
There you go. Yeah, and I like Bird Dog Peach whiskey too. So those
Excellent.
two, depending on how I'm feeling.
I think that's all fantastic. Not Scotch. Are you a Scotch person?
No, you know what? I've tried Bruichladdich before. I've tried a couple different scotches, and I'm more of a whiskey person.
It's all good. I have two more questions, but kind of attached to all this. What's your plan for the future? What's the next mountain? What's the next milestone? Is it all the ranked and unranked 13ers in Colorado?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know which one I'm doing next. It depends on the weather, obviously, but I've got them all mapped out. I do want to finish the 13ers, and then I kind of want to disappear. I just want to buy land and property somewhere and continue to hike, but not do trip reports, continue to hike what I've already done. So I think it'd be really dangerous to get into the 12ers because I have a very addictive personality. And once I start, I won't stop. So I'd like to finish it with that. And then it's my goal to buy property somewhere and build not really a homestead, but a home and property and just enjoy it somewhere in Colorado.
Do you have a timeline in terms of when you want to have each of the 13ers completed by?
Well, looking at my numbers, realistically, I should be able to do it in the next 2 years or so. But most of what I need is highly inaccessible and I do work full time. So I don't like some people are able to do 2 or 3 week trips in the mountains where they get a whole bunch done. I don't have that. I have to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's what I've got. So if the approach is 25 to 30 miles, I can really only get so many peaks in because I've got to head back out and get back out. So it'll depend on weather and how we're doing this year with weather and next year. But looking at the numbers, I should be able to do it in 2 years, but realistically, it'll depend on weather and how fast I can get in.
Is there one you want to do as like the last one? Is there a peak that you're saving for the cherry on top?
The fireworks will
am.
finally come out for?
Yeah, and this has been a secret, but I'll tell you guys. So the last one I'm going to do is Whale Peak. And the reason for that is that, how do you accomplish a really big goal, or how do you eat an elephant, or how do you eat a whale? And it's, one piece at a time. So my goal is to finish on Whale Peak. It's a class 2. It's not a difficult one, but it'll be memorable for me, hopefully, to be able to say, it's just one peak at a time. It's how I got them all done.
Is there going to be a shot of whiskey at the top?
Probably for that one. I would also say that I don't normally take a shot of whiskey at the top of peaks because you need to have your full mentality going up and going down. Sometimes going down is harder. So I don't like to advocate having a beer at the top or having whiskey at the top. Wait till you get back to the trailhead, but there will probably be one on. So, yeah.
My last question. So much of your story is about your journey as a person. And I'm wondering what's repeatable from that. What advice would you give to young women? I have a 10-year-old girl, and I know you have a daughter. What would you tell a young woman who's embarking on this? And is there any advice you want to relay?
I would say just to do it. I mean, you don't need a lot to get out there and go hiking. I mean, realistically, you want to have the 10 essentials, but you need a backpack, good shoes, and some water. Realistically, get out there, play with it, try it. Just go out there and do it. It's enjoyable. Anybody can do it. Anybody can hike. It doesn't take a big skill set. You'll learn as you go, stretch yourself in different ways, try different things. But just go out there and do it. When I first started hiking, I didn't go alone because everybody was afraid for me to go alone. But I wasn't really afraid. I was a little afraid, but I'm like, yeah, I'll try it. But it scared everybody I knew, especially my mom. And eventually I'm like, you know what? I'm not really afraid. I'm not going to live my life through somebody else's fears. Just because you're afraid to hike solo doesn't mean that I am. And why should I not get to because you're afraid? I'm not afraid to do it. I'm going to do it and I'm going to have fun and enjoy myself and look at all the experiences I got from doing it. Now you try it and you don't like it. Okay, maybe find a hiking group or something and you go with other people, but you should at least try and get out there.
That's wonderful. Not living through somebody else's fears is wonderful, bold advice that I'd do well to live by a lot myself.
We've covered a lot of ground here, and seriously, Laura, thank you for all of the time today. We appreciate you sitting down with us and sharing all of your stories.
Laura, if people want to follow you or buy your book, can you plug yourself?
Okay. Yes. This is uncomfortable for me, but I'll do it. Okay. So my
Self-promotion.
Instagram, yeah. Instagram is Laura_M_Clark. And if you want to see pictures of 14ers and 13ers or hikes, that's generally what it is. Every once in a while, you'll get a cat picture, but that's pretty much what you're getting is mountain peaks. I don't do a lot of selfies, so you're looking at pictures of mountains. And then I have a website. It's wildwanderertripreports.com. And every trip report I have is on there. I've got hundreds and hundreds of those. And there's links to, I've got a podcast on there. And my podcast is meant for beginner hikers, what to wear, how to get ready for altitude, all that kind of stuff. That's on there. And then there's a link to buy my book on there. My book's name is Wild Wanderer Soloing Colorado's 200 Highest Peaks. And that's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble as well.
That's fantastic. And I will plug the trip reports once again, perhaps the best in the business.
They're legendary.
Thank you.
And, the 14ers have been anthologized. Everybody knows how to hike 14ers. 14ers.com has it. But if you want to hike rare, unnamed 13ers, unnamed peak 13,134 in the Lagaritas, Laura Clark has climbed it and she has mapped it and she tells you where to make the turns. They're really a heck of a resource for anyone wanting to hike. So can't thank you enough for sharing your time with us today, Laura.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. I enjoyed talking to you guys.
Well, Eric, that was a really interesting conversation with Laura Clark, the Wild Wanderer. What are your impressions?
Yeah. Wow, Zach, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I guess that's my first impression, was that she has accomplished way more than I'll ever do. And yet she was so down to earth, really open to just sharing her stories. I mean, that's essentially what her book is. That's what her trip reports are too, as informative as they are. They're her telling her story about her adventures on each peak and during each adventure. And it was just really fun to share all that with her and learn from the things that she's learned, hear some of the fun stories that she has experienced in the time that she's been hiking 13ers and 14ers. And it was just a lot of fun. So what did you think, Zach?
I may sound like a broken record here, but every time we talk to someone like Laura or Justin Simoni, I'm inspired. Her passion is infectious. Her willingness to prove, to keep growing, to fail upward and going up mountains, knowing that she may not do them. She talked a lot. I don't know how many times she mentioned that she been turned around.
She had to turn around. Yep.
She's had to turn around a lot. And for her, those are not bad days. Those are learning experiences. Opportunities is the phrase that she used a couple times.
Yep.
I find that attitude inspirational, motivational.
It's refreshing too.
It's refreshing. If you read her book, there are occasions there for defeat. And she is not that kind of person. So really enjoyed hearing that side of her and why she hikes the way she does. Have to admit a bit of jealousy. Dang. I would love to have done, I guess I've done a fraction of what she's done, but a somewhat larger fraction. She talks about 100 peaks a year and here I am. It's the spring and I'm thinking about 12 to 15.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So just hearing about her passion for the peaks and the way she trains, it's really interesting. And I think a lot of people do well to kind of look at mountains the way she does, as a place to escape, find some clarity, find a sense of purpose. At their best, that's what the mountains are for.
Yep. I love it.
So yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah.
And I hope that she inspires a lot of people, not just young girls, but a lot of other people to do the same.
I think she already has and probably will continue to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that wraps up our conversation with the Wild Wanderer, Laura Clark. Zach, if our listeners want to reach out to us, how in the world will they do that?
They can email us at greensandbluespodcast@gmail.com. There's a Facebook group,
Ooh.
Greens and Blues Podcast. And I have a Twitter handle at NMHikerPerson, which was probably the worst Twitter handle I could have ever come up with. But if you search for Zach Simpson in Twitter, you can find me there. I am probably the worst at self-promotion, but that is another place where you can find us.
There you
So
go. We'll send the bluebirds your way.
Yeah. Or the whiskey for that case.
Send it to you in the mail.
Well, thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time when we talk about a 13er that I did that Eric might be interested in.